Hello, and welcome to the Argyle CFO Summit. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week as well. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our moderator, Stacy Snyder, Senior Vice President, Executive Search, Addison Group. Stacy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacy Snyder. I have my degree in accounting from St. Edward's University here in Austin, Texas. After getting out of accounting, went into executive search recruiting within the accounting and finance space with Robert Half for 6.5 years, and moved over to Addison Group almost 6 years ago, and have been able to expand our practices in the Austin, San Antonio, Phoenix, Minneapolis, and Atlanta markets. I'm very excited to be here, and also more excited to introduce our panelists. First up, we have Valkyr Correa.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Stacy. So nice to meet you. Thank you for you watching us today. So a little bit about me. I started as a server assistant in 2000. And then I climbed the ladder, right, to the point that I am today. I'm VP of Finance at a big resort at Baha Mar. So everyone here is invited to visit us there. Amazing place in the Bahamas. So a little bit what I did. So starting as server assistant, got a few opportunities to go to accounting, where I started my career in accounting as an accounting manager. And then when I started to travel, South America and Spain and Mexico. And I did that for 9 years, opening hotels and training the accounting team there. So I had a lot of experience on training talents with, different backgrounds. And then after that, I started to have a couple of opportunities as a financial controller in Mexico. And then I came to US, stayed here for 3 years. And now it's been 5 years that I'm enjoying this opportunity at Bahamas. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much for being here. Next up, we have Rosalind Johnson, a global leader providing thought leadership, strategy, and execution of complex strategic initiatives. Welcome, Rosalind.
So good afternoon. Thank you, Stacy, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm Rosalind Johnson, and so let me start off. I am a CPA. I'm still a certified public accountant in the state of Texas. And I started out in accounting. I spent 10 years doing everything from an analyst to controller. And I switched to mergers and acquisitions and strategy and governance. And most recently, I was leading the people practice for all of M&A for McKesson Worldwide. And today I am in independent consulting, doing various consulting engagements for organizations. And I'm excited to be here and to talk about talent, both in the finance and from a broader perspective today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rosalind, for being here. We are going to go ahead and kick off our discussion. So first question up is, talent acquisition and retention has remained a top priority for organizations. So can you share how you're currently focused on this in regard to finance talent? And Zakir, I believe that you're going to kick us off on this one.
Sure. So the first thing that I want the audience to understand is a little bit about cost. We are finance people, we need to understand that, right? So I was looking for some research about on the matter, right? And then there is a few studies there that indicates that it puts a cost related to a talent that, for some reason resigned in our company. So the lowest estimate is that cost about 1.5 to 2 times their annual salary when you lose a talent. So that's a big concern today and it makes completely sense, right? And look, it's the lowest estimations that they have about that number. So, what to do to retain those talents. So I like to say like this, right? So everybody can start to understand a little bit as well. So by the time that you are looking for a talent to hire someone, you are already losing the game. And then and the reason for it is because of this. If you don't have enough talent in your own organization, your own department, to be able to promote them when the time comes, so again, you're already losing the game. So I had a lot of discussions in other forums about this, and in what our finance colleagues are doing when they have an opening position. They are, of course, hiring that because you don't have other option there, but they also hiring what we call like a wild card, someone that can be around and learn from different departments, so they are ready in case of an opportunity or something else happen. Another thing that I like to mention as well, we need to start to think about training our people, of course, with this mentality that they will leave. Maybe they're gonna take 20 years from to leave our company. Maybe there's gonna be 2 years, but we need to constantly train them. You need to be very attentive to make sure that they are prepared for the next step. Because right now, what is happening, it's a lot of people really angry about, oh, it's too difficult to find a talent here. I don't know what is happening. Well, stop crying and think about strategies. And then one of them is to make sure that you have a very strong team ready to take the next level.
So Valkyr, thank you for that. And just to piggyback on your response, and just like you, I did a little research to understand the newer dynamics, because we've been through a lot in the last 3 years. And so it's like, what's going on in the last 4 months from a talent perspective? And some of the strategies and things that we have done and I have seen in practice is implementing a finance rotation program where you are rotating not only internal talent, but external talent and bringing them into the organization. So having that type of program, but also your internal talent, moving them around and putting them after a stint in certain positions, moving them around to other positions so that you can cross collaborate and build bench strength. So that's one of the things, and building that robust and diverse talent pipeline. So you gotta, build that pipeline so that you have resources to fall back on. And then understanding your current talents, what their career goals are, and what they want to do with their career, and developing an IDP, so an individual development plan for those individuals, so that when opportunities come along or when you see needs within the organization, and I apologize, I like to talk with my hands, it just keeps me, engaged. You can fill in those skill sets and, again, when you're rotating that talent and you have, where they want to go with their career, it gives you some bandwidth and some growth. And then finally, I would implore us as leaders to always provide stretch opportunities to our talent, and not only our high performing talent, but some of that talent that's right on the border, or just your steady state, your core talent, those that you can always count on, because by providing them stretch opportunities, you never know when something may light a fire in that employee that takes them to a whole nother level.
Yeah, and remember, we cannot be mad that people are looking for better opportunities. That's why it's so important to be, to have talent around that they're prepared to take the next step. So be aware of that. Don't be mad with our associates and our colleagues because they want a better life or a better opportunity. Right. What you need to do is to, don't get tired and make sure that you're constantly training your team to be ready for the next step.
And they want to diversify their skill set. So like I said, I spent the first 10 years of my career in every part of the finance and accounting organization. But for me, I got tired of closing the books. I was like, I cannot do another quarterly close. I cannot do another semi-annual budget, another plan. I want no more. It was too routine for me. I wanted something a little bit more dynamic. So we have to meet our employees where they are.
Yes.
I think we also have to understand that when someone comes in, they're going to evolve most likely, right? And how they came in to the organization may not be where they want to end, and being open about that. But I think that the common thing is that, oh no, they came in under finance, so we're going to keep them there, when realistically a better position for them might be in operations or a blend of the two. And I think that gets lost a lot, is just wanting this person to stay in the same function throughout their entire career, when a lot of people want to expand outside of maybe what they got their degree in or what they started their career in as well. And it doesn't mean that that boss isn't doing the right thing. It's just they changed as a professional.
Yeah.
So, awesome. So we're going to go to our next question, which is, how does investing in the best finance talent directly impact company-wide success and improved efficiency? Rosalind, I believe that you're going to kick us off on this one.
Yes, so here I'm going to put on my broader people hat, first here. And the first thing I would say to each of us as leaders on this Zoom is that investing in talent, finance, operations, wherever you're investing in talent, that is the smartest strategic move you can do for the organization. You got to think bigger, you got to think broader, and think strategy. And for the company, that is the right thing to do. So when you're investing in your finance talent, and the investment in the finance talent should lead to a partnership relationship with the business. And in that partnership, if you have invested in your talent, then they're bringing the best and the brightest of themselves to the business. That can only aid the business in executing, which impacts everybody from a bottom line perspective. Because at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, executive leadership, the board of directors, everybody's looking at the bottom line, and did we hit the numbers? And so when you have a finance professional that you are, accounting professional, and you have invested in them, and they're bringing the best and brightest of themselves to the business, that's a positive return on investment for the business, and you're making an impactful decision to the business. We also need to consider that when you're investing in the talent, what you're typically going to get is talent that's being much more consistent, and you're going to find fewer errors in their work. And 9 times out of 10, when you're investing in the talent, they're also much more of an engaged talent. And so that engagement, again, it bolsters the business case of why we are setting funds aside to ensure that our finance talent is, I wouldn't say leading edge, but they're still current with the policies, the practices, and new and innovative ideas of what is happening in the industry and how we can stay within the boundaries of our GAAP or our finance rules and our policies and procedures, but also, slice and dice and look at things differently to help the business achieve whatever objective they have.
It's very interesting because, what Rosalind is bringing is all these, psychological tricks, right? But what happened when you start to invest in our finance teams, right? And then to try to complement a little bit, what hard skills, right, would be interesting for you to decide to invest in your team specifically? So, of course, it got to a point in our, in our department that people started to implement all these different systems, and then people started to avoid a little bit, saying that they are experts in Excel. But one thing is for sure, Excel is going to survive forever in our life as financial people. Okay, don't be afraid of saying it. So one of the things that works phenomenally is teaching, actually, right, advanced Excel for our teammates. So if you want to invest something, Excel is the first one that you should be looking for. And the tool that makes a difference, right, in people's life when working in finance is learning how to handle database and pivot tables. So if you understand how to build a database and apply pivot tables to it, it changes completely the way that you do analysis there, because in the end you have all these different systems and somehow you need to analyze the information. We like to analyze transaction level. So knowing pivot tables, it's something that really it's amazing. The second thing that I would recommend for our finance leaders is to start to look for a different profile for their department. Whether you want to train someone in your department, paying for a specific course, or hiring someone from outside, now is the time for us to jump on the automation side of this journey. So I highly recommend you to start to train people on skills like Python, right? Programming. In my department, I have a financial automation specialist, and then we do amazing things. All these repetitive tasks that can be done by a machine, right? By a simple code. Well, this can bring an added value for your companies that you can even imagine. So start to think about this and consider realistically, to train those skills, and you're gonna get a lot of benefits from it.
I completely concur with that. Is making sure the right tools are there for them also, and that investment in those tools. And I know from an M&A perspective, when we are crunching the numbers, when we're looking at all the comp data, we're looking at all the benefits data, and you got 1,000+ employees in a transaction. And when you have somebody that has that skill set, you've invested in the tools and you provided the tools for them, but then they have that skill set where they can put it all in a database and you can run queries, you can pivot. It easily enables you to be able to do the analysis, to quickly spit out the data that says, hey, we need to consider this, this, and this when we are looking at this acquisition or we're looking at this divestiture. And this is then having that data set, you can then have a fundamental conversation with the business of, here are your parameters and here's what you got to work within. And this is the financial impact or the potential financial impacts. And it's based on data versus the gut feeling.
Yeah, and it's amazing when everybody starts to talk of the same language.
Yes.
So having the same, tools and training everybody kind of the same way. Of course, everybody has their own, time in terms of learning. But again, those tools, right? Mainly the Excel tools, that's so important for our department. And actually can bring a lot of added values, because then their mind start to create their own queries and how to pull data and how to compare. And now they have this amazing tool that is, I'm not saying this for free, but it's already there, and sometimes nobody knows how to use it.
Stacey, I believe you're on mute.
Thank you so much, Roslyn. I was saying that I've been doing recruiting for accounting and finance for 13 years, and it's been very interesting to see how leadership really has shifted its change or its thought process as it relates to kind of training our employees to be better than us, right? Giving them the tools to go out and be stronger than us. 13 years ago, it was like, oh, I can't do that. They'll go find something better, right? Now they do it because it makes their job easier, and they're not so scared of being able to give them these tools to be successful. And in reality, what it's, in return is those people are actually staying longer because they are getting those opportunities, and leadership isn't as worried about giving them those tools that will allow them to grow their career and their skill set. All right, so let's move on to the next question. So how are employers raising employee satisfaction while simultaneously growing various finance functions? And Valkyrie, you're going to take us on this one.
Sure. So the first thing that we need to do as leaders, because we like to talk a lot, right? Imagine, our profiles going around that we know all, right? And then we keep saying people what they need to do and how they need to do. So the first thing is very simple. Zip it. Sit down with your associates, right? Your team, and actually listen to what their concerns and then their ideas, and make a list of it, right? It's an active listening. Okay, make notes of what they are showing you, what are their concerns, So then you can create a list, right, of what is happening into your department. That by itself, it's already a great boost of morale for your team, because they see that you're really engaged in making their lives easier or better, right? Maybe you have a team that's working long hours, and that's a big concern for them. Maybe the task that they're doing is too complicated, and they think they need more people. Now is the time to introduce new tools. So when you really listen to their concerns, and it cannot be like this big environment of about, oh, hey, here's a safe environment. No, take the time, talk individually to each one of them. They all have individual perspectives. They all have individual point of view, and it's very important for you to connect with them. So connecting with your associates actually really increase and boost morale in it. Okay. Hopefully that type of interaction, you will see a big change in their behavior. And then you need to really cultivate a curious environment where people are going around asking questions and see how they can contribute. But curiosity only comes in when you have this trust environment. And trust can only be built if you're really listening to your teammates, to your associates. Okay. So make sure you have that covered. Okay. Put your ego aside, sit down and have an honest conversation.
So back here, I love that. I mean, when you said zip it, I was thinking, oh, that's perfect. It's just sometimes we as leaders, we need to learn to listen. We need to be, to your point, actively listening. And you said something else that resonated to me, is creating that psychological safety net for our employees, where they are able to succeed and grow. But if they make a mistake, it's okay to make a mistake, own it, and fail fast and then move on. That's what I say all the time is, if we don't do it right, let's learn from what we didn't do right. Let's quickly identify it and let's make the corrections and move on. But also from creating a employee satisfaction, it's also understanding what the employees really need and what that balance is. Oftentimes we hear work-life balance, but that's thrown out there so easily that we as leaders may not understand what work-life balance is. For some people, work-life balance is truly, how do I, get everything done between 8 and 5? For others, it's the basic of just give me flexibility. Do I have to be in the office 5 days a week, or can I do it 2 of the 5 days a week, or give me flexibility to work the hours I need as long as I'm getting my job done? But it goes back to Vakir's point of listening, really listening and having that intimate relationship to understand what meets your employees' needs to create the balance they need to be the best employee, but also the best person in their daily lives. And then secondly, we just talked about this, but providing them with the right tools. Excel is a great tool, but there are other tools that they need, but making sure we understand what they need to be able to execute on their day-to-day jobs. It's amazing at how many times my team has surveyed employees from a M&A perspective or a divestiture perspective, and we see top of mind is, I don't have the tools to do my job. And how frustrating, for me or anybody that I'm trying to achieve and succeed, and I don't have the basic tools to get the work I need to get done, and I'm under tight deadlines.
And sometimes it's as simple as, look, it's crazy. When you talk to your people, real talk and in real listening, sometimes it's dumb things like the Xerox machine, right? The photocopy machine is not working. Or, my computer keeps crashing and they need a new computer. Or maybe it's their chair that's kind of wobbling or whatever. Or maybe the coffee is not that right. They like a different flavor. So the thing here, the point is, if you don't talk to them, you're never going to know. And then you come with all these ideas from HR and in engagement and all these gatherings and potlucks and things like that, and then you are completely missing the point just because you don't talk to your people. So at this point in our careers, we cannot afford that. We really need to personalize the way that we engage with our employees.
Yeah, the one size fits all management style, it does not work anymore. You know, you can have 12 employees and you manage each one of them just slightly different, right? And I think that that's also something that's definitely evolving over the past couple of years as well, is not putting the management style into one box for every single person, because every single person has a different motivator or goal and personality as well. So yes. Awesome. So, Rosalind, we're going to go to you next with the next question. So, does higher engagement from employees result in greater productivity? Please share any real-world examples that you may have experienced.
Okay, so the simple answer is yes. Well, let's just cut. I'm putting on my finance, I'm putting on my HR, I'm putting on my strategy. Simple answer is yes. If you have an engaged employee, typically what we see from a more engaged employee is higher productivity. And why is it that, why does it translate into higher productivity? Because that engaged employee is at a position, at a point in their career or where they are sitting in their job today, that it's not just about them. It's not about what's personally in it for me. It's about the team, it's about the company, it's about the organization. And so as leaders, the first question is, well, how do I ensure my employees are engaged? How do I get them engaged? And some of it goes back to some of the things that we said before, listening and providing them with the right tools. But when we say an employee is engaged and it's, you know, and it's increasing their productivity, they are typically much more focused on their work. They are, and I say much, they're much more focused. They're laser focused on delivering high quality work output product. And that typically translates into more effective time management also, where they are managing their time, they're executing. And they are also, they're wearing it, I don't want to say badge of honor because that may seem like prideful or something, but they are invested in themselves, they are invested in the team, they are invested in the organization and the success. And I'll give you a couple of examples of where I have seen this in my prior teams, is that I had one employee that was highly engaged and participating in a number of our company sponsored groups. And so with that, this employee, you know, everybody had a full plate. I would say that we all had full plates, but she noticed that one of her teammates was running behind on a deliverable. And she also realized that if that deliverable didn't get done, it was not only going to affect the employee, it was going to affect the team, because we were in a shared services environment and we were the center of excellence for M&A. And so being the center of excellence for M&A, if you're not delivering for that M&A transaction to the business, then they're not just looking at that one individual, they're literally looking at the center of excellence too, of, hey, you guys are not meeting our needs. And so what did she do? She jumped in and said, hey, how can I help you? What can I do? And so she took on part of that deliverable to help the teammate that was running behind get it done so that it was delivered to the team or to the business on time with a quality outcome, and the business was excited. So for me, what as a leader, what ended up happening, not only did we deliver to our business partners for the input to the business case, I also had a grateful employee that somebody noticed that they were struggling and was willing to extend an olive branch to reach out and help. And that created a bond of trust between those two employees. And from an overall perspective, I gradually watched the employee that had been struggling literally start to raise the level of expectation and be more timely with getting work product done.
So story time, right? 2008. I was in Spain, right, for a big project for the hotel that the chain of hotel that I was working. It was a Spanish company. They were using SAP as their ERP system. And then I was the accounts receivable specialist there. So I was going around the entire country of Spain in cluster centers for training. And then I went to Madrid in this specific training center. And then before, the training session started, I always talk to the training people, the people that are going to train, to understand what is their concerns, and to listen a little bit to tailor the way that I'm going to do the training. So this guy comes over, and then he spent like a couple of minutes complaining about how the implementation was really bad, and they didn't know this or that, blah blah. Right? This is a story about engagement, and then he was really pissed. He was engaged in a way, but that we didn't want. So he was bad mouthing about this module everywhere. He was doing a big noise. So I listened, took my notes, and remember, active listening. Okay, there is a question about feedback, and then that's what you need to use. Taking notes. And then the only mistake that I made, I tried to make fun of things sometimes, and then I didn't know how to read his emotions properly at that point. And I said to him, you see, I took everything, confirmed the information, right? And I said to him, you are crying right now, but you're gonna leave here with a big smile. And the guy took offense on that, right? Because he was struggling for the last 2 or 3 months, working until 11 in the afternoon, right, in the night. So it was a mess in his personal life. And then I apologize, what you can say in that moment, right? But as I'm very passionate about teaching. That's kind of my core. I like it to do it. And then I did everything. I touched every single point. And then there is Q&A. It was with more time. So we had that opportunity to connect individually for all these people in that room. So what ended up happening is that not just him became the engagement person that I was looking for, but the entire group. So the amount of impact that you can have when you actively listen, and then you make those arrangements, right, towards the solution of those things that you listen, it's amazing, right? It really is spread in a way that module for the company became the best module for everyone. Mm-hmm. So, and that's why you are so important to being the finance leader in your company, right? When they see us as financial controllers or directors or VP with this high power that we have, so connected with them, the engagement already happened. And then what you ended up having, it's all these people, working somehow knowing that they are doing something that is impactful and meaningful.
Yeah, and I think that this ties in nicely, but we've got a question is, how are you promoting employee feedback within your organizations?
So the feedback for me is pretty simple, okay? Of course, there is all these sandwiches and then SPE or whatever, but in the end, you need to do what we just said now, right? So you sit down to have an honest conversation with your associate. Generally, you need to do this in a neutral environment. The office is never a good place to do this type of thing. And then during that conversation, it's a conversation, right, where you listen, you try to, screening for more deep understanding of what they are saying, and then you come up with a plan. And this plan needs to be both ways: what the associate is going to do to improve that, and what you're going to do to improve that. And of course, everything that needs to have like a time frame, right? Because words in the air is words in the air. And then after a certain period of time that you decide with them, you come back and do an assessment what was done. And if everybody is agree, it's okay with that. And as you can see, you are constantly going back and forth. So feedback session is this constant conversation, constantly listening and acting towards the resolution of whatever is there, behavior or tasks or projects, whatever.
And just to add on to that is when you're actively listening and that neutral environment, especially if you're in a neutral environment, but I would say any environment, the first thing you tell your team member, your colleague, your peer is, I'm taking notes. And I'll tell them that the heartbeat. And the reason why is because I will forget. And I want to ensure that I have every data point that we discuss, because I don't want to miss anything, because it's a feedback loop. To Valkyr's point, it's a feedback loop. But if I am only retaining 60% of what you're telling me, that feedback loop is broken. So
Yep.
I meet, and we all see so much data. We read so many emails, we get so many documents to review. There's so much content that I need to take notes. And so I tell them that up front, I'm listening, but I'm taking notes so I don't miss something, because I do want to hear and make sure that I have a good recollection of our conversation. But another part of promoting that employee listening and feedback culture is having a true open door policy where they can come to you anytime about anything without fear of reprisal. That's one of the reasons why employees don't come, and they don't talk and they don't share, is because they feel like you are going to at some point use this against me. And if you have a true open door policy, that is never the case. It's, I want to hear your feedback. Feel free to knock on my door, give me a Teams call, chat, whatever. But so having that true open psychological safety place where it's a true open door place. And then asking open-ended questions. When you ask yes or no questions, you're going to get yes or no answers. But if you ask an open-ended question and then just wait, to Valkyr's point, be patient. Even if it's that pregnant pause where, the silence is deafening, but if you just wait and listen and let them come with an answer, you start to build that trust, build an environment where we can put everything on the table and we can move forward with that.
And then look, remember this, okay? Because we all work for companies, they have their HR department, they have their own structure about feedback sessions and all these quarterly, 6 month, yearly, whatever, right? That serves a purpose, okay? But we are talking about two persons talking, okay? And then maybe that your company is not structured that way yet.
Right.
So do whatever HR wants to do, but make sure that you are having this honest conversation with your associates. That serves a purpose, maybe for bonus purposes or for whatever is the reason. But the talk because here's the thing: if you think that because you did already what HR asked you to do, you don't understand the point here. Okay, it's a different thing. It's a different beast that is needed for other purposes. Your talk is with the individual. It's your department, and you need to make sure that is well managed and people are, okay doing and happy doing what they're doing. So HR, monthly, quarter, you need to do that, but we are talking something else, an extra, that human touch, that connection. That's what creates the connection.
And and just to add on to his point, is HR is asking you to do the quarterly, semi-annual, annual. But if you are having those individual one-on-one conversations and understanding, especially if you're in an organization that regularly conducts employee opinion surveys or management quality surveys, that translates into your score easily. And so if, like in my prior organization, we were measured on our management quality surveys. We were measured on the employee opinion surveys. So it behooved us to develop those relationships and listen, and then take that feedback and not just, internally of like how this is going to impact me, but how, it's impacting the organization. And so what we can do to help move that needle forward.
Yeah. So let me tell you one thing, and then this is for you to start to understand once and for all. If you think you are a leader right? Because everybody thinks that, oh, I'm a great leader. This phrase needs to be stick to your mind. It's not about you. Okay, it's not about you. Understand that. It's not about you. It's about your team. They perform well, you will look well.
Right.
They're doing the job and they are bringing you all the added value, you will shine. You only shine if they are shining first. You are a leader, it's not about you. You are the responsible to remove obstacles, to promote knowledge, right? To make sure that they are working in a very, nice environment and they are working harmoniously. Okay, it's not about you guys, it's about your team.
So there's a question in here that goes very well in the chat with this is, what is your opinion of peer performance reviews as opposed to just management performance reviews?
Yeah, so the peer performance is, I believe it's kind of how your peers look at you, right? And then again, when in terms of the performance review, if you are talking about the HR structure, again, you need to do whatever they need to asking you to do. And then the peer review, of course, it's important. But again, if you have a team that works well within them, right, within the own team, and then you have this type of behavior, everyone's gonna want to work with you because you have a nice environment, you have a knowledgeable environment, you have a place where people want to connect with you. So this is automatically is gonna be easier for you, right? I'm not sure, I don't have peer review in my company. I have the management review because this is like a more upward up down type of structure. But anyway, again, this is all the HR structure, which means you need to do anyways.
So I am a proponent of both, and it goes to 360 feedback. So you get a full view of an employee. So you not only get the hierarchy structure of who's in management and their view, but you get, and the reason why I say that, you could sometimes have a halo effect as a manager. So when you are getting input from the peer organization around that employee, you get a full view of the employee's strengths, the employees' areas of opportunity. And I think that is fair for an employee to really understand where their strengths really lie and where their opportunities for improvement are, because we are all, at the end of the day, leader or not, we are all human. And so we all have our blind spots.
So we actually only have time for one more question. So Valkyrie, you're going to kick us off, and then we can wrap up the session. But what upscaling and reskilling and career development opportunities do you provide within your group?
Sure, really quick, right? So the reskilling, right? What we do there is cross training between the departments. So we have a lot of people that stays maybe a year in this department, so that we promote them to go to another place so they can start to have these different perspectives. I always say, if you know what comes before and after your job, right, your job is going to be much easier because you know how is the output, you know how is the input, so you know what to look for, and then you start to increase those steps. And sometimes we send people to operation areas so they can have like a type of understanding there as well. So knowledge, the people needs to be curious, right? So cross training is the best thing that you can do in your department. For upskilling, I highly recommend you guys to start to invest in the specific individuals in your team to bring this automation to your world. Automation is a big thing happening right now, and then it can really impact people's life. It's not about terminating jobs. It's about all these repetitive tasks to be eliminated so you can make people to do more meaningful things. So yeah, that would be my take on it.
Okay, and so I'll quickly just say it's the cross-training opportunities, but it's also opportunity for stretch objectives and stretch goals. That way, you get to really see where an employee can go if you can provide them with stretch opportunities. And then from a career development opportunity, I said that goes back to that individual development plan and where employees want to develop their careers. And so if, I've had people on my team that says, hey, I actually want to go and work on a technical implementation because they found that fascinating. We were implementing a system and, they found that fascinating. And so how do I help them get the technical skills so that they can at some point go and work on and be assigned to a technical project? So really understanding what that individual development plan is. And then as a leader and as a manager, being aware and networking within the organization to understand how I can best situate and advocate and sponsor my employees to get those opportunities that they see.
And be very attentive to your department, because if you are working, to the bone, you just have that one individual for each, and then you think that you can't afford another position because whatever is happening in your company, you really need to think about, about that. Having a wild card person in your department that can do things, because look, there is always work for us, like it's endless, right? There's many projects that we are not doing it. So a person that you can have to be around and learn all these different things can really help you as well. So having that wild card is really important. I highly recommend you to consider it.
And then we've got about 3 more minutes. I think that we can get this one in as well. But any tips for managing employees in a remote setting / environment?
Yeah. So like we are doing right now, right?
Yes.
Call them. Call them, right? Call them and talk to them. Okay. Of course, it's very complicated nowadays to have that human interaction and presence, because I'm a big believer that is important as well. But the world changed, right? And we need to adapt. And the way to adapt that is really with this, personal touch. You need to call them to make sure that they are engaged, because you can do a lot of things for them as well, even if they are working remotely. So yeah, call them.
So I not only call them, I would say set up some personal time. For me, it was doing the one-on-one stuff, but sometimes it's setting up that personal time or having the team, do some kind of fun, what do we call it? Cahoots or something like that. Some kind of game them on 30 minutes of like, let's just have some fun, and it takes the place of that, we're all standing in the office around a cube having a conversation. So things that put that regular flow of dialogue that's not always about the meeting or the project, you have to create those opportunities to have that free flowing conversation.
Call them.
So,
it's easy.
So 2 things, yes. One, also, a lot of things that I hear are very clear expectations as well, right? So it's so easy to look over to someone and be like, hey, you're going to do this today, right? But whenever you're sitting 1,000 miles apart, it's a lot harder to do that. So one, I would say set very clear, realistic expectations, lay it out for them on what they need to do. And yes, even if it's not on their calendar, call them, pick up the phone, reach out to these people, I would say at least once a week, and have a non-work conversation with them, something that does not have to do with their daily duties, what's due that week, but that just a conversation. It doesn't have to be an hour long, but just a one-on-one conversation with them will go a very, very long way.
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
So thank you so much, Rosalind and Valkir. I think this was a great session. And I will kick it back to you guys.
All right. Well, thank you all for such an insightful panel discussion. That was great. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. This officially concludes the Argyle CFO Summit. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. Have a great day, everybody.